All right. All right. So today I wanted to talk um, about something I've been working on, where one of my kind of goals with this game, Civilization 6, is to try to win fast in science victories. And I kind of wanted to just go through kind of the steps needed to do that. Uh, and um, when I say fast, what I mean is, can we win in sub 200 standard speed? And this is very, very possible if you have things on like um, all these additional game modes, right? These additional game modes give you big advantages like secret societies with extra yields. The heroes are broken. Monopolies is quite good. Uh, but as far as I can tell, that for me, those kind of feel like fantasy. Um, where this with Barb Clans feels like the true Civ 6 experience, the no BS experience. And the goal is, can we win consistently in uh, science victories in under 200 turns on daily difficulty with essentially arbitrary leader or many different types of leaders. And so um, to do that, there are so many things that you have to consider. Um, but in terms of just getting the game set up, there are a couple key things in the creating of your game which are very important. One of those things is that so just go down the list. I have it disaster intensity set at 1. Although sometimes these disasters can give you additional yields, oftentimes they're more trouble than they're worth in terms of destroying your districts and killing population in your cities. So, in my experience, it's best to keep this low. Um, we were using Pangea map size because um, there probably are other maps that you can use, but Pangea for me is useful because we have access to water. We should be able to meet every civ with a scout if we don't have a terrible map spawn, and it still is quite a big bit of variety between different starts. The map size is for 8 players. I think that's a good number. Um, and that kind of ties into the number of players that you have. So uh, you could, cheese it really hard and go like down to like 6 players in a game, so you have so much space. But that feels a little bit cheap to me. I think it's definitely possible with 8 players. Um, you do need space in most cases, but oftentimes we can use some other settings to give ourselves some space. Um, in terms of the actual AI leaders that we have in the game, it's very important that we don't have Hammurabi because he can uh, mean his presence often means that barb camps are spawning very high tier units way earlier than they should spawn, and so that can be a huge problem. It'll game ruin you in many cases. So he cannot be in the game because it's just too bad. And there's a couple other people that I get rid of, and I'm not an expert in the most aggressive AIs, and perhaps one day I'll kind of actually figure out the best groups to have. I still like a bit of variety. I don't want to play against the same executives every single time, but I do know there are some that are simply really bad. In my experiences, particularly like John Curtin isn't auto early war declare. He hates you. He will always declare on you if he's anywhere near you. So like it's just too bad to have him in the game. So you have to get rid of them. But there's a lot of other civs that are AIs which are relatively passive or playable against, as long as you don't make them upset. Okay, so that's that. Uh, the resources standard, you could do abundant, but I just prefer standard. I think it's good enough. The city states, this is quite important. I've gotten rid of all of the military city states because I'm trying to win science victories fast, and I've gotten rid of a few of the um, industrial city states and most of the cultural city states. I'm keeping most of the uh, um, uh, city states that are commercial city states, And I've kept a few faith city-states because it can be really good to get that early faith. And then most of these cultural ones. And then I keep all of the scientific city-states. Um, if you've tried to win science victory, you should know that obviously having more scientific city-states in your game is really good, right? And so it's very important that you have them. Now, you don't want all scientific city-states. It's good to have the other ones too. Other ones have a lot of great bonuses. Auckland's bonus is amazing. And even just getting a couple levels into these envoys into these mercantile city-states is actually quite useful. So you don't want to only have scientific city-states. Um, some of these are really good, like Ayutthaya, Antananarivo, and Kumasi are very good city-states, so we'll keep those in. Um, yeah, so uh, at some point I adjusted all this, and this has kind of been pretty useful. Um, okay, and so natural wonders, this isn't that important, I don't think, but I got rid of all of the ones that are kind of crap, um, in my opinion. I guess I could add them back. I don't think it's a huge deal, but if there's only so many natural wonders in the game, they might as well be good or pretty good. So, like some of these are just like only good for giving you like great general points, just not super useful. Some of them are desert wonders, which is not super good. Um, I could add those back in at some point. It's not a big deal. The world age I've got is new, so it's important to have new because they get the more hills, mountains, and volcanoes. And then star position I've got balanced. You could go legendary, but they are it's difficult. Like it's not always good actually. Like legendary doesn't guarantee you a win. It just means you probably spawn next to a natural wonder, and maybe you have a lot of resources, and that's generally good. And you could do that. I'm not going to fault you if you want to start position legendary, but I find that balanced is often good enough and kind of keeps me honest with this challenge. Standard temperature. You want to have a wet climate so you have more woods, so you have more chops in general, and then low sea level, so that is more space on the map um, for settling. And also this also means more ice, which actually can be good because it means there's more chances for barbarian clans to spawn and actually become city states. And then this challenge, without like super fine tuning about the exact city states that you can get, is only really possible because we have these barbarian clans mode. Now, Deity AI loves to kill city states, so even if you start with 12, you're never gonna. If you couldn't spawn more, you would never end with 12 city states. You'd probably end with like 6 to 8 because they kill these city states constantly. So you need to basically be able to get more as the game goes on, or else you'll never be able to have enough. And if you have played Civ 6, right? I guess I'm assuming that everybody's kind of familiar with the basics of the game. You need to have a lot of city states um, to help you win fast for the additional yields that they give and bonuses. And so that's enough about kind of the setup for this. Uh, but and of course I'm playing on standard game speed. So let's get into this, and I will show off some starts, and then we'll start to talk about what we're looking for in a start for a game. So I'm working on Gorgo right now, so I'll play Gorgo. We'll start up a game. All right, so here we've got an example start. So let's analyze it. What do I see off the bat? Well, um, I see a couple mountains. I see we have a couple tiles, which are good enough. We've got a lot of hills. But we don't have a lot of food. And so we're looking at our first rank. First, we do see okay, we can step on a production tile. We can settle on a production tile. We can work these good tiles. However, how are we ever growing? If we work only the tiles we see, we'll never grow past 3 population. And so the city can never be good enough to produce settlers quickly, which is what we're looking for. It can never be good enough. It probably is going to really struggle to ever build a um, 2 districts to start off the game before like turn 50. Um, and so even though we have 4 yield tiles in our first ring and plenty of them, because we can't grow, this will not ever be good enough to be a sub 200 science victory. It just won't. There are additional things which you can consider, which are nice to have, not necessary. Could lead to us giving up on the game, or could lead to us having a great game, depending on. It's always nice when you can place a campus or a holy site, and it's going to be +3 yield or more. And we see that we do. Uh, if we placed a campus here or a holy site, it would be +3. That's really nice. Um, it's really nice when you can do that, right? Because having early science is really good, or if you're going for a faith build, having early faith is really good. So this satisfies that additional criteria. The other thing is it would be really nice if you can have luxuries in your capital that are, first of all, present, which this doesn't seem to have any luxuries, and two, improvable. Usually, mining luxuries are the best because they are improvable without irrigation and they give you production. Um, and then also luxuries based on animal husbandry are also quite good. So if you have an animal husbandry luxury or a mining luxury, like that's also really great because that means you can usually improve it quickly and get the bonus of the amenities, which you can either sell or just utilize so that you don't have negative amenities. So let's look at the city. All right. So down our checklist, if we settle in place, do we have 5 good tiles in the first 2 rings? The answer is no. We have 3 good tiles. Sorry, 4 good tiles in the first 2 rings. But that's okay. And what do I mean by good tiles? Again, so good tiles. This is a good enough tile, right? If it was 2 food, 1 production, and 1 gold, that wouldn't be good enough. But 2 food, 1 production, and 3 gold is, I would say, about the same as a 2-2 in terms of value. Like 3 gold per 1 production, that's probably fair. And then we have these 2 production hills, and then we have this bananas tile. Um, is this the best spawn ever? Absolutely not. Is it playable? Probably. Um, why? Well, of course um, we can get those decent yields. The city can grow, and how come it can grow? Well, it can grow because it has enough chops to grow. It has a couple tiles which are growth tiles, like this banana tile, um, but it's um, unfortunately never going to be able to use Pingala because if we're able to grow, but we're not able to grow and keep our growth up. And so we'd have to go for Magnus at some point so that we could chop and never lose population when we're building settlers. That would be too bad. So this is on the edge of playable. It's on the edge of playable. Um, it also has this. It actually does satisfy partially this condition. If we can build a +4 holy site here, which we would probably do in this start, we would build a +4 holy site, and then and that would be pretty good. So, looking at settles like this, basically on the edge, you could probably play this and get away with it. Depending on your luck for the rest of the game, I would play this one out. I would try to play this one out if I saw this and I'm trying to win sub 200. It looks playable. All right. So this start, right? Okay. So this start, we spawned over here. We spawned on this tile. We moved over one because we wanted to settle here, but then we noticed that Roraima was next to this, so we moved a little bit closer. And so this would be a turn 3 settle, which is not great. But when you settle on stone, you actually get to keep it. So you'll see that I actually keep the 2 production yields in the capital. And this capital, let's look through our criteria. Does it have the good enough tiles in the first three rings? Absolutely. It's got this. It's got 5 tiles there. And then we can improve this stone, which is awesome. Um, and we also have these Roraima tiles, which are really great once we can improve them if we want to. Um, Now this one's tricky with the growth. Do we have growth? Sorry. let's go through our list. Long-term production. Yeah, you'll see if we look at our hills, we have enough hills here. We're not struggling for hills here or production in general. This is plenty of hills to be a decent city. Is it a river valley city? It could be, but it doesn't have to be, and it's good enough to be a great city. Plenty of production in the capital long term. Um, the food's trickier. The food's a bit of a trickier situation because it's not obvious how you're getting food here. It's not obvious. Uh, Now, you could definitely go a couple routes. If you wanted to get Pangala, you would probably need to have the Marshes Pantheon so that you could work these three food tiles. Um, I think it'd be quite difficult to pull off Pangala here and keep this city actually good, unless you are able to get a holy site with work ethic. So in this particular start, the way that it's viable is if you get a holy site with work ethic, that's +4 there, um, and then you do Pingala, and you can kind of keep a low pop because you're going to get work ethic, so +4 production for no population cost, and maybe you can chop some of these marshes, or you could still get the marshes pantheon and work those tiles anyway. So the struggle would be how would you actually get food, and it would be a little bit hard, but you could probably do it if you were able to get work ethic pantheon or work ethic religion and maintain it in the capital. So this is playable. I would say this is playable. It's quite good. Very early on, it should be quite good because if you get a builder, you can build here and get this. You can improve these tiles so that you get the yields, or maybe this tile because you might build a holy site here and get that extra yield there. So I would say this is totally playable. Um, Obviously, we spawned near natural wonder, but if we just spawned near this wonder when we didn't have these good tiles in the first ring, it actually wouldn't be playable. You would have a hard time converting that. So let's look at this start. Let's start again. Okay. Do we have good enough tiles in the first ring, second ring? We do. We absolutely do. Look, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the first two rings, and maybe something over here too. So great. We've got 5 good tiles in the first two rings. That's awesome. Um, do we have long-term production? Well, let's see. We've got. Let's look. I would say that's enough. Yeah, I would say this city has decent long-term production. Um, and then so our third question is, does it have growth? And the answer is yes. Why? Because we can build Temple of Artemis in this capital. Without TOA, it doesn't really have enough growth. We'd have to go for Magnus, and we'd have to chop out all these jungle tiles to try to get growth. Uh, but because we can build TOA, that allows us to go Pingala, and with Pingala, this is quite playable. And we would settle this in place, right? So we get the extra production on the hill. And this could be a Petra plus a TOA city. This would be a very playable start. You'd build TOA here if there's no horses. If there is, maybe on this hill, um, and it'd be very. This is a very playable start. Uh, we have a mining luxury. We have an animal husbandry luxury. Honestly, I would rather have this start than our Roraima start because it just hits all of our qualifications. Let's look at this start. We don't have enough information here because we kind of really need to see what is in this second ring. But I guess that means it's not, right? Because if it was a hill, you would be able to see, you would see it. So it's basically saying we can see these hills behind the forest, but we can't see them below here. So I'm assuming all of this is flat, whatever it is, which means it can't be great. Okay, so it's tricky. This is on the edge here. This is on the edge. Let's do the full analysis. In our capital, in our first two rings, we have 4 to 5 workable tiles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 4. We have 5 workable tiles in our first ring, first two rings, and 2 of them in the first ring. Or we have sorry, we have 6 workable tiles. Does it have enough long-term production? Yeah, you've got enough long-term production here. Does it have growth? Not really. The only way you get growth is if you have to go uh, Magnus, okay, for growth, so that you can chop out the jungles and maintain the population, and not lose population when you settle cities. So this is on the edge of playable, but because you have to go Magnus and there's nothing else super compelling about the start, um, this would be really tough to convert. We don't see any good luxuries to improve. We probably don't have a +3 campus or holy site anywhere. So this would be a real struggle to try to convert just based on the start of the capital. But it's on the edge of playable, and with really good play, it is actually probably possible to win this.